Hi and welcome. Apologies in advance for the background noise, and in this video I will explain and show how to easily and safely start and stop with a bicycle and how to get on and get off a bicycle. Experienced cyclists may laugh now, but every day I see people getting this wrong, and I have seen people fall and get hurt, or even worse, damage their bicycles by not knowing how to get on and get off a bicycle. So in this video I'll show how to do it, and first I will explain why it is done the way it is done, so that you know why you're doing something. For me it's easier to learn that way, and that's how I will also present this. So let's start. I'll first bring in a bicycle and explain why things have gotten complicated in the past 50 years. Here, this is a more or less standard modern bike from this century, and when you are setting your saddle height, it is set relative to your bottom bracket, or pedals if you like. And the basic idea is that if you put your saddle too high, then you will have problem reaching the pedals, and it gets very uncomfortable very quickly. But also, if you put your saddle too low, then when you're pedaling, your knees are bent too much most of the time, and that puts a lot of stress on your knees, and it can create some problems and even injuries in the long run, and it is not recommended. So I have made videos and articles explaining how to tune your bicycle and do the basic fitting, including how to set the optimal saddle height. So in this video I'll not be taking too much time for that. So we are starting with the saddle set at the optimal height. When you do that on bicycles that were made 50 years and even longer in the past, further back, the bottom brackets were placed lower, and that did allow you to get on and off a bicycle with your foot on the ground. You could get on the saddle right away and get your foot down while you are seated in the saddle. However, that created two problems. First one, both are related to clearance. First one is that when you are turning, your pedal was too low, and so if you lean your bicycle even slightly, your pedal would hit the ground and it would cause you unbalance, and it's generally a problem and something to be avoided. So you had to take care when you are turning to not spin your pedals, but keep them higher up, or keep the inside pedal to the top, even when you're doing some not very extreme cornering at great angles. That was one problem. And the other problem was ground clearance when you're riding on bumps and jumping over logs or similar. So with mountain bikes getting more popular in the 80s of the past century, the bottom bracket started going higher, and it's become a standard nowadays. So bottom brackets are now noticeably higher than compared to what they used to be. And now that creates a problem, and I will explain how to get on and off a bicycle that has a normal today's standard bottom bracket height, and we'll show it outside. So here we have a bicycle, and I will be showing with a bicycle that has this high top tube, or men's bicycle, for bicycles that have step-through frames, or as are called women's bicycles. That is not much of a problem, this first part. But the rest goes the same for both bicycle parts. So the first part is to get in between the saddle and the handlebars, and the second part is to start with the bicycle. And when you're getting off and stopping, it's done so in reverse. So first let's start with getting our foot over the bicycle, and I'll go with this more complicated. With step-through frames you can just get your foot through this and be on the other side. But with a frame like this, if you have hand-actuated brakes, it's not a bad idea to hold the brake, to activate it, to keep the bicycle from rolling, especially if you are on an uneven terrain. And if you are not flexible enough or have some tight clothing, you can lean your bicycle to make things easier for you. So let me show you. I'm not sure which angle is best, but here this is very, very simple. I can just get my foot over it, or get it this way. This is usually how I do it, and then I can do a bit of jockeying to get into position. Of course, you needn't necessarily lean the bicycle too much, it depends. That is the first step. It is important to get your hips between the handlebars and the saddle, and make sure not to get anything caught in the saddle. The next step, you have both your hands on the bars and you need to set your pedal. Some people prefer starting with the left foot, some with the right foot, it's individual. And the same goes for getting on and off. Some do it with their left leg, some prefer with right. It doesn't matter. So get the one foot you're starting with to be at about not forward and a bit to the up, the pedal pointing. So that's the first thing. If you have a bicycle that cannot do this, then you need to prepare that in advance to set your pedals. If you have a coaster brake, so pedals won't turn back. So you step over it, you put your foot, you hold your hands to the bars and you're looking straight ahead, not down. And then as I put weight on my leg, it will get me up so I can get on the saddle easily and it will get me moving. So because if I put my butt on the saddle first, it's very, very unstable. So this is how I do it, watching the head, and I start. Now, in order to stop, if I'm using coaster brakes, I will slow down almost to a stop, or with hand brakes, use this, then get my foot down and do the opposite of what I did. With a bit of a balance, I can do this without moving, but it's easier to start when you get pedal to get some momentum. So that's how you can do it. Another way that I often use, I'll show now. This is it. It's very fast, very convenient, but it's not something that I would generally recommend for novices. It does require a bit more balance and coordination, and it can be considered a bit more risky. It's safe when you learn how to do it, just take it easy. So that would be to put your foot on the pedal and just either push your bicycle or get your pedal up so that it starts by spinning. But here I'll try to do it by pushing. And the same goes for getting off. I can do it when I'm moving. With some practice it gets very intuitive, very easy. But for beginners, I would recommend what I had just presented. So watch where you're going, don't look down. If you look down, you will go down. Watch where you want to go. Make sure not to get caught by your saddle. So you're in between, press on the pedal, get up and get rolling. And now to get off, my foot is down. One thing to pay attention to, if you're using front brake, when you almost stop but not completely, when you unweight the saddle, your bicycle may very easily do this, so make sure to do it almost to a stop or to do the final stopping with the rear brake. So that's one caveat. I hope I explained properly this. Practice it in a safe area and stay safe, stay cool. And I hope this helps a lot of people. Thank you very much for watching and cheers. Here I hope you can see the difference in bottom bracket heights and how low the pedal is on this bicycle that's lower. So that's the difference, and this is not the most extreme case. The older style bicycles had this even a bit lower, so you were able to get on and off without getting off the saddle. But with modern bikes, the procedure that I demonstrated is what I would recommend and consider to be easier, more practical and safer, especially after you practice it just a little bit. So that's it.